Hey guys, in today's episode, I want to talk to you about my journey as a solo dancer and what got me into shines. Boom! So let me make this story quick and tell you about my progression as a dancer. I took group lessons for about 9 months. And that's how I got my start as a dancer. I had many teachers at first and they all had different styles. At the beginning, I didn't have any preferences as to what I liked, what I didn't like. I was just trying to learn from everyone without judgment, trying to take it all in and learn as much as I could. YouTube at the time wasn't so big as it is today, where you could find all the dancers and a million videos for each dancer. Plus on top of that, the quality of the videos were not that great, so you couldn't see a lot of detail. And right now you could pretty much slow down a video, study it. I know, because that's what I do. But you couldn't do that back then. So it was really difficult to learn from YouTube. And on top of that, the titles were all messy. You couldn't find all the videos. You would have to really dig for each video. So I would go to salsa parties and I would watch what the best dancers were doing. And I would try and see what resonated with me. And I started to pick up little by little some styling moves and some little tips with the hands and stuff like that, until eventually I saw this two dancers that came to this party one time, and they were amazing. I mean, the best dancers I had ever seen until that point. I was so impressed by how they danced. There were two guys and they had a lot of style, something unlike what I had seen before up until this point. Randomly searching through YouTube videos, I found one of the guys and he had a couple of videos there, and I started studying his style and I started trying to imitate what he was doing. I didn't know what it was that I liked about how he danced, but it resonated with me and I started to imitate it. I would sit there for hours watching YouTube videos of this dancer, trying to take mental notes of whatever it is that I liked that they were doing, and practice that in my head over and over and over again until eventually I would go to the party and try out the moves myself. Not a long time passed before I started to look a lot like this person. It wasn't like the exact copy of it, but I started to create a similar style for myself, and I started to be more and more like this person. I thought it was awesome. I liked it, but I wanted to develop my own style. I wanted to be me. So I started to see what else was out there. I started to look for more YouTube videos. At the beginning, I was dancing on one. And then as I started dancing with better and better dancers, for whatever reason, the trend was that the best dancers at the parties that I was going to were dancing on two. So then I started looking for on two videos. And I found this guy who was a world champion. He had won many world titles. He was amazing, really clean dancer, really awesome. The patterns looked really smooth. It was a contrast to the on one style, which is really big and powerful. This was much more mellow. And for whatever reason, I resonated with that and I started to, again, imitate, study the moves that this guy was doing, try to break down his styles. I, again, would spend hours just watching his videos and trying to see what I could imitate, and then I would take that and go to the party and try it on myself. And then I repeated the cycle. So not a long time passed before I started to look a lot like this guy. I had very similar patterns, if not exactly the same, because I was copying all his moves. And I learned a lot by watching him, and I learned a lot about being smooth as a leader and how important that is. I started to get feedback from dancers saying, for the short amount of time that you've been dancing, you're doing awesome. Your leading is good. So that inspired me, motivated me to keep going with it. And that was awesome feedback because leading is super, super important. A lot of people overlook, they just want to look good. They don't pay attention to either the leading or for the followers, they don't pay attention to the following. Anyway, so my patterns were looking smooth. I was starting to look exactly like this guy. And even though I love the style on him, I wanted to see what else was out there. So I felt like I had really smooth patterns. I felt like my partner work was awesome. But then when I would let go of my partner and it was time to do shines, I was lacking. And even though I felt intimidated every time it came to doing shines, and I didn't particularly loved them at the time. Jumping to on two, hearing all the stories from the best dancers telling me how, oh wow, when they go to New York is a lot of shines, and how the best dancers need to learn how to do a lot of shines. At least it motivated me to take a look at them. And when I became open to the idea, I started looking for people who I liked how they were doing them. Because up until this point, the reason why I had hated shines is because it felt very robotic and mathematical. It felt like when I would learn it from somebody, they would just go through the steps. It was kind of like going through the motions, but it didn't feel like dancing. It comes to the point where you feel like you know a lot of moves, a lot of steps, even with the turn patterns. You feel like you know a lot of moves. You're dancing with your partner with a lot of turns. But is that dancing? Do you feel like you're connecting at all? Does it move you inside? And how does that movement look like? And is it always the same? 1, 2, 3, step here, step there. And even though the song changes, you're still stepping the same. So that turned me off about shines. Well, and the obvious thing is that I didn't look great doing them. But one day, searching through YouTube again, and YouTube has been the biggest mentor I've ever had. YouTube is life. I found my dance instructor, which at the time, he didn't have so many great videos. My instructor is Frankie Martinez. He didn't have so many great videos. There weren't so many videos out there of him. You really have to look for them, and they were not really good quality. But the ones that were there was something very interesting and captivating about the way he moved, he danced, he connected to the music. I felt something when he danced. It wasn't just like robotical, going through the patterns and doing the same move all the time, the same way every time. There was something there. I didn't understand that at the time, but I felt like I was ready to take on something new. And I was open to new ideas. So I started doing more research on him, and I found more videos, and I started to study him to no end. I would spend hours and hours and hours just watching his video and trying to practice all the moves that I had seen from his social dancing videos, just out there by myself in front of the computer. It was hard. It was difficult. I had never met the guy. I had never taken his lessons. All I could see were the YouTube videos and the little amount that you could see back then. But at least it gave me hope that there was something more to the dance than just like the robotical 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 count shines that there were. And it also, for whatever reason, whenever I watched him, it felt like he was dancing. It didn't just feel like he's just going move after move, pattern after pattern after pattern. It felt like he was connecting. It felt musical, and it was refreshing for me to watch, especially because all my dance consisted of were turn patterns, and I was starting to get bored of my own moves. So then, little by little, watching, studying him, one day my friend calls me. She says, "Hey, do you want to go to New York? I'll pay for your hotel. I'll pay for your stay. I'll pay for everything. All you got to do is book your ticket." This is just a couple of months after starting to watch my instructor on YouTube. I couldn't believe it. That came out of nowhere. I take a flight to New York. I go to the New York Salsa Congress, and clearly I stopped at his studio. And oh my God, it blew me away. On those 2 days, that weekend, I took maybe 5 classes. It was his body isolations class, his shines class. I took a level 3 partner work, which I completely got destroyed. It was so hard. I had only been dancing for like a year and a half. And even though I felt confident, like I was ready, oh my God, it was so difficult. Which motivated me even more because I thought, wow, there's so much to this that I didn't even know about, that nobody's talking about, that I didn't know you could explore this side of it. I didn't know there was an art to this. I didn't know. I loved the philosophy and how he explained things. So it really intrigued me, and it made me want to learn even more and study more and take this thing more seriously. So then I made it a point every year I would go back to his school, and I would take some lessons, and I would take notes and take them back. I would come over here, practice for a year what I had learned, go back the next year and do this. And I've done this for about 8 years where I would go to his studio and learn from him and take notes and do that. But anyway, so that's how I got started. That's my journey into how I came to Salsa Shines and what motivated me. I love the possibility that this could be something huge, and this could be something so artistic, and this could be something so great if we put the time and discipline and we develop a method where we could train and not have to depend on taking ballet lessons, jazz lessons to get better as a Latin dancer. So as far as learning has gone, tips that I have for you is study the dancers that you love, whether it's my instructor or whoever it is that you like, but really study them. Watch all their videos. Spend hours studying how they put their arms, how they move, how they do this, how they turn the girl, where are the hand positions, how are the fingers moving. Study all the details, because that's what's going to give you the most return. Don't go from teacher to teacher to teacher. Find one person who you like and stick to them and learn how they do things, learn their philosophy, and copy them. Copy them as much as you can, then go and take lessons from them, and that is going to teach you so much. People say, oh, don't copy, or you look like a replica of this person. But you know what? At the very beginning, everyone started copying somebody. And not just at the very beginning. I was reading a book called Mastery by Robert Greene. And in the book, it talks about how people would learn crafts. Imagine a carpenter. He would open up a shop and he would be a successful carpenter. But in those times, you wouldn't learn carpentry by going to a carpenter school. You would learn by having a mentor, and you would do an apprenticeship. So that apprenticeship would last for about 7 years. So you're learning and imitating somebody's work for 7 years before you're even allowed to do anything on your own. So everybody that tells you, look, don't copy because you want to come up with your own style, to even be able to come up with your own style, you have to be breaking away from something. You're not, otherwise you're just coming up with randomness. And even though you might be creative enough to come up with something that works, everybody learns through copying. And then eventually when they master the structure, and when they learn the principles, then you can start to apply those principles to come up with your own thing. So you can't skip that. Otherwise, if you cut your learning process too soon, you're going to end up just looking random. And you're not going to end up with your own style. You're going to end up with like a watered down version of the person who you tried to copy. And eventually you ended up giving up and you didn't learn it all the way. So take time to learn. Have discipline with your learning process. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this talk. If you did, leave it a thumbs up. If you know anybody who would be interested in listening to this, share this video with them. I'm training for the World Salsa Summit. Follow me on my journey to be the #1 dancer in the world. I want to win this competition, even though we'll see. I don't have any expectations. Until next time, guys. Boom!